Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. This is amazing to see this number of people here. So my name's Michelle Duncan. I'll be the MC for the event. Just wanted to welcome everybody here. A little bit of housekeeping. There is a first aid kit up in the tents up there. Public toilets, unfortunately, have not been open. So hopefully, if you do need to go, just sneak into the art gallery. Or maybe not. So first up, I would just like to welcome Daniel Thompson from the Yuggera mob over to the stage for a welcome to country.
Thank you, everyone. A bit new with microphones and a bit nervous, but I'd like to acknowledge elders, both past and present, from the area and emerging, of course. My people come from this area. I'm glad to see everybody out here. I suppose when we look around, we're kind of a minority at the moment, but you're fighting the right fight, and yeah. It was a National Women's Day the other day, so obviously there's a lot of Aboriginal women and non-Aboriginal women in the community who have done a lot of work. Obviously Auntie Faye, everybody knows her, she's pretty well known. I'd just quickly like to acknowledge my nan as well, her name Doreen Thompson, Nee Davison, who set up a lot of stuff here with a lot of other elders and aunties and uncles. So, in short, boy, I'm against the incinerator, and to be honest, I didn't even know how to say it until last night. I've seen a lot of the advertisements and whatnot, and I've been down to an irate meeting recently at Bellbird Park. At that stage, Andrew Antonelli was the mayor. Just quickly on that day, I pointed out some things to Andrew, and I'd like to point them out to the greater public as it is now. Anything dumps, incinerators, large-scale developments, the state government saying this is what your land's worth, all comes back to the fact that the traditional owners of this land still aren't recognised fully. You know, we're talking, what are we, 230 odd years on, and we continue to fight just to have a say in town planning. Like I said, I'd like to, you all should give yourselves a pat on the back for being here today, because in short, any incinerator obviously has to affect the well-being of us as people, our next generation, their next generation, our animals, the actual environment. Somewhere in all of this, people lost track of that, but I'm sure if we can combine together on this and of course the obvious problems at Deben, which is going to keep continuing, I dare say, for a while. If we can just work together on them type of things and fight the right fight, it's not about black or white, it's about what's right and what's wrong. And I think if we can come together on these type of things, we can be better people moving forward for the whole of Ipswich. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you so much, Daniel. So I just wanted to quickly mention the Deben Creek mission. I'm sure many of you have heard about it or seen some of the images on the news. The mob out there are facing much the same as what we're all facing here today. Dodgy development, people, going against the wishes of the community. I do really want to encourage people to drop into the Deben Creek mission. Everyone out there is really friendly and really welcoming. I've been out there quite a few times and it's just really peaceful. You wouldn't know that you're surrounded by developments. It's just nature and it's beautiful. They can give you a bit of a tour of the land, a bit of the history if you'd like, but above all else, I just really appreciate the support of the wider community, because they are facing an uphill battle, and it's something that we're all really familiar with, and that's why we're gathered here today, because it is facing an uphill battle, but with the community coming together like this, and this is amazing, community organisation, it's so incredibly powerful. So I just really want to commend everyone for actually taking that step forward and joining the fight to stand up against that dodgy development and government decisions that we don't necessarily agree with that may not be in the best interest of the community. And with that neat little segue, I just wanted to do a warm welcome, despite my previous words, to Greg Chimello from the Ipswich Council, the Administrator.
Sort of, thank you. And thanks for making the time today. I think it's important. My job, I might use my iPad later on to read you out some stuff. My job this morning is really to give you a quick update on the process of this proposed project might take. So at the moment, Council has no development application from Remondis. We have never been given any any documents from Remondis. So I can't give you any comment whatsoever about the proposal because we haven't got one. Okay, so that's the first point, is that there is no proposal in front of Council at the moment. What Remondis have done in December is asked the Coordinator-General whether to declare it a coordinated project. Now that process means the Coordinator-General, it's an officer of the state government, decides whether to declare this a coordinated project. That is all about coordination of Commonwealth and state matters of significance. So the Coordinator-General has powers to assess the Commonwealth Government environmental matters and the state government environmental matters in one go. And it's a logical way for efficiently dealing with the approval or assessment and approval of projects. So that decision has not yet been made about whether the Coordinator-General will call it a coordinated project. I'm hopeful, like you are, that there's a decision made on that soon so we know where we're going. Let's assume he says no. Whoops. Let's assume he says no, it's not a coordinated project. What that then means is Remondis is left with the mainstream planning system to apply for. They need to lodge to Council a development application. We need to assess that under the planning scheme and under the temporary local planning instrument that we have for wastes. So there's an assessment process by Council. That's called impact assessable. Hands up those who know about impact assessable. Well, I'll give you a quick, okay. That means the community has a right to put in submissions on that. There's an advertisement process. I should know, Brett, the time, 30 days, 20 days? Yeah. 15 plus business days it is. I should know because I actually helped write the Planning Act in a previous job. So you have the right to put in submissions. We take the submissions on board. We assess against the planning scheme, against the planning instrument, and the Council makes a decision. In this instance, it will not be a decision of delegated office. It will come to Council for the next 12 months. That's me. And so I'll make that decision. So things can happen out of that. Let's say if I approve the development, then anyone who put a submission in can take Council to court and challenge that in the Planning and Environment Court. If we do not approve it, the company can take us to court in the same Planning and Environment Court. Okay, so there's a pass through Council, and then regardless of whether it's approved or not approved, there's a court process at the end. So either the third party submitters, yourselves, or the company could take Council to court. That's the process if the Coordinator-General says no. If the Coordinator-General says yes, it is a coordinated project, there's about three times that you get to have a say in that process. So it will most likely be an environmental impact assessment study that they'll need to do. And this process takes 18 months to 2 years. I'm talking about now the Coordinator-General's process. So the first decision, if they make a decision next week to say, yes, it's a coordinated project, that is not an approval. It's really important to understand that is not an approval for the project. All it says is that the Coordinator-General has defined it as a kind of project that he now looks at, okay? So it's not an approval to proceed. It's an approval for them to go and do an environmental impact assessment. So the first thing is you get draft terms of reference to look at. That's publicised. You have the ability to comment on the draft terms of reference. We will, so Council will comment on the draft terms of reference as well. That's finalised. That reference is given to Remondis. They've got to do an environmental impact study. That environmental impact study is then advertised. You have the chance to comment on that EIS, and we will as well. They might not need some more information. The Coordinator-General might want some more information. And if that significantly changes the EIS, it goes out again for public consultations. That's the third round that you'll have. At the end of the day, the Coordinator-General makes a decision, says yes or no to this project, and if they say yes, and there's a bunch of conditions, and there always is, lots and lots of conditions, we're bound by that. So that decision binds us so that the Coordinator-General can nominate, I'm inventing a number, 152 conditions. 52 of them might be which allocated to Council. He decides Council is responsible for those, and we have to do that. That's the law. So we don't have discretion in that regard. At the end of all that process, you know what? Reminders have to lodge a development application still with us. So we get back to where I said at the start, where they're lodging a development application, impact assessable, and the difference between that version and the first version is, of course, we've got this framework where we've got an approval, presumably, otherwise they wouldn't lodge, by the Coordinator-General and conditions that bind us. So our ability to condition is tempered by that process. Hope that makes sense. I actually won't read you the stuff on the iPad. I'll just say, those of you who should look at the temporary local planning instrument about waste in Swanbank New Chum should have a look at that. It's online. on both council and the state. There's some really high benchmarks about what a proposal needs to demonstrate in order for council to approve it. Okay? And they're really high benchmarks in terms of no adverse impact on the environment or the community. They're very, very clear words. I'd encourage you to have a read of those words. We will be looking at those words when we do our assessment. There's a whole lot of other requirements there, but the fundamental line is a very, very difficult test that we need to assess any development against, and we'll be doing that with Ramondas. It's important that we comply with the process and the law. The reason I'm here is in part because maybe some folks didn't respect the law as much as they could have. So I'm not going to deviate out of my obligations under the law, but I understand the community's views and concerns, and read that TLPI, have a look at the words, and when you're putting in your submissions to the Coordinator General or to us, call us out on those words in that planning instrument, because that's our obligation to assess. Once again, thanks very much for your time this morning. It's not as hot as I thought it was going to be, and appreciate the chance to come and talk. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg.
What's the name of the Coordinator General?
The name of the Coordinator General?
Oh, Barry.
Barry who?
Barry Bro.
Barry Bro.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Greg. Next speaker, we have Jim Dodrell from IRATE, so the Ipswich Residents Against Toxic Environments. So I'll welcome Jim to the stage.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for making the effort to come along this morning. It's really appreciated. Sometimes it can feel a little bit lonely. We've got a really, really good team of dedicated people who I'm a member of, who have been fighting this fight in general against the waste industry since 2011. It's a hard fight because we're up against what seems like the waste industry mafia at times. These are people who are very powerful, they have very deep pockets, they donate hundreds of thousands of dollars to both major parties in the state government every year, and they appear at times to get their way. So you people are a threat to them by being here. So you're doing something really good for the community. The waste industry pretend to do good things for the community, but that's open to question. In this morning's Queensland Times, the head of the waste industry came out and insulted all of you. It said that you're all a noisy minority. That's what they said. Noisy minority with poor perception. So straight away, the best they can do is to insult you, good people. That's the best that they can do. They don't mention that there was a petition presented to Parliament with 4,000 signatures opposing this incinerator. That's not a noisy minority, that's a noisy majority in my books. Further to that, this person, Rick Ralph, who represents the waste industry, makes some outrageous claims. He says the Ramondas proposal is not an incinerator. That's what he said, it's not an incinerator. So he'll have us believe that it just magically turns waste into electricity somehow without burning it. It's not an incinerator. He goes on to tell more fabulous stories. He says, from the top of the Eiffel Tower, you can look down at a waste-to-energy facility in Paris. Well, from the top of the Eiffel Tower, you can also look down on slums and drug dealers and all sorts of things, but that's not a good thing to sell to people in Ipswich. We don't want an incinerator or slums or anything that you can see from the top of the Eiffel Tower. And then he talks about a ski field in Copenhagen that's on an incinerator. He doesn't mention the fact that it's not snow, it's not even white, it's a dirty bit of carpet that they put on the roof of an incinerator in Copenhagen, which is an eyesore to a once beautiful coastal town, and the people there hate it. But that's the kind of thing that they want to hold up and try to fool people into believing is a good thing for Ipswich. As I said, we've been fighting the waste industry for a number of years now. And we're sick and tired of the lies, we're sick and tired of the smell, we're sick and tired of the dust, we're sick and tired of the fires. And did I say the lies that this industry have told us? A couple of years ago, we had a group of councillors from Ipswich City Council and the town planner and the head honchos from Cleanaway tell us that they weren't going to extend the landfill at Newchum. So that's the one near Riverview, Collingwood Park. They swore to us that they wouldn't. In fact, they had illegally overfilled the dump already by a few million tonnes. So they said, we'll offset when we get to the other end. We'll offset, so we won't fill it as much on the other end. They waited a year or two, and lo and behold, they came out with a new plan, despite the promises from the council and from the heads of Cleanaway that they were going to go 100 metres up. 100 metres up. So they're going to create a mountain of waste. So you can't trust these people as far as you can throw them. We have a history of non-compliance after non-compliance after non-compliance of these facilities in Ipswich. And we're told by the state government, oh, but we monitor them and we keep them under control, and anything that goes wrong, we'll enforce that compliance. Well, they don't. The state government were so shocked when they had a town hall meeting here in Ipswich recently at the reaction of people to the waste industry in Ipswich and the smells and the fires and the dust, that they put together the task force to come out here, and they're actually based in Redbank Plains, and they spent a couple of $1 million on that task force. That task force still hasn't put a stop to any of the offending waste industries. They won't even tell us if they find anybody or if they found anybody non-compliant. Complete waste of taxpayer money just to make it look like the government was doing something, when in fact people still have the smells, still have the fires, still have the dust problems that we had before they came. That task force wraps up in July, and they'll just close up their little shop and probably put their little green vans on the market and move back to wherever they came from in Brisbane, and that'll be the end of it. Millions of dollars spent, big PR exercise, and the people here in Ipswich are still stuck with the fires, the dust, the smoke, the non-compliance, the trucks and the waste from New South Wales. Now, Remondis have made some claims as well. So Remondis are saying that they're going to spend $400 million on this waste-to-energy facility. What they haven't said is they want your taxpayer dollars to build it. So that's in the ultimate adding insult to injury. They want your money to build it, and then they want to pollute. I'll just wrap up as quick as I can. We've been working with some other groups. One of them is the National Toxics Network. According to Jane Bremer from the NTN, all incinerators, which includes gasification, pyrolysis, plasma, arc technology, and the like, are all a waste of energy. A waste of energy due to the relatively low calorific value of the waste. So in other words, they burn huge amounts of waste, produce huge amounts of carbon dioxide, produce large amounts of deadly toxic gases at great expense. The expense is, again, according to the NTN, burning waste pollutes people's bodies, pollutes the environment, creates mercury, dioxins, lead, and other pollutants. In terms of climate change, incinerators emit more carbon dioxide per unit of electricity than coal-fired power stations. Keep that in mind when they tell you it's some sort of renewable project. According to the World Health Organization, so this is the world body the experts on pollutants. Dioxins, which are produced by incineration, are highly toxic, cause reproductive and development problems, damage your immune system, and interfere with the hormonal system and cause cancer. Cause cancer, okay? As if we didn't have enough problems, with people suffering from cancer, they're going to add another ingredient in to cause more cancer. who are most vulnerable to these dioxins and other pollutants. Pre-birth babies and in development, newborn babies who are developing rapidly are vulnerable. Workers who work in these plants, according to the WHO, workers may be exposed to higher levels of dioxins because of their occupation in incineration plants and hazardous waste. So the WHO have identified incineration plants as being major causes or major sources of dioxins. What are some of the other reasons why we oppose it? I mean, why are we here? So if we have another source for waste to come into Ipswich, it means more trucks, right? More trucks, more heavy traffic on the roads. It will kill off the recycling industry. Everywhere where they've brought in incineration, anywhere in Europe or North America, it has annihilated the waste recycling industry. So it's the end of the circular economy. Contrary to what the waste industry mafia would tell us, waste energy is the dirtiest, as I said before, the dirtiest and most expensive method of creating power. One thing that we identified was if you were to close all of the waste industry operations around Ipswich and put solar renewable plants on them, we would have enough electricity for all the people in Ipswich. Clean, renewable, no dioxins or pollutants. So when they try to tell you, oh, you know, it's a nice way of making electricity, it's not. It's the dirtiest way and most expensive way possible. So the political landscape, and look, we do have to know what the political landscape is because unfortunately these decisions are often left into the hands of politicians, is we have contacted, so there are 4 state members in Ipswich. We've contacted them all. So far, Jennifer Howard, the member for Ipswich, Therese Mullen, member for Jordan, Jim Madden, member for West Ipswich, all appear to support this. They are all towing the party line and supporting this incinerator. We do have one champion. We do have one champion who is Joanne Miller. And I want to acknowledge Joanne because she's gone against the tide with her party and she's lost favour, you know, with the party who she was once a very strong member of, and a party who used to present themselves, in fact they still do present themselves as the party of the people, party of the workers. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case now. We've also contacted both federal members, Shane Newman for Blair and Milton Dick for Oxley. The best we could do from them was they evaded the question. So they wouldn't give us a yes or a no, they just said they wanted more information.